Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Knowledge Podcast. We are so excited to share with you our personal experience and stories about learning process. Today, I'm joined by my amazing classmates, Aura Cristina Borges, Helen Juliet Cordova, Isabela Valentina Rosero, and Wendy Carolina Rodriguez. So, let's start with the first question. When and how did you start learning English?
Mm, I started learning English when I was in elementary school. I remember my first teacher was very kind and made the classes fun with games and songs that really helped me get interested in the language.
Okay, good night, everyone. I began studying English more seriously in my 2021 and when I began my university studies degree in foreign language with an emphasis on English. Before that, I had a basic foundations from high school, but it was general and limited in university. I began to explore the language in more depth and understood its importance in my academic and professional life.
Okay, in my case, always I say that I began learning English when I was in high school, around the age of 14 years old. At first, it was through simple songs, games, and classroom instructions. Was introduced to reading, writing, and speaking in a more structured way. However, I began learning seriously when I was in the university, learning basic vocabulary and grammar.
Okay. And I began my journey of learning English in the year 2022 when I decided to take in the series and part of my academic and personal growth. Before that, I had a very basic of the language, but in wasn't confident using in real situation. At the time, I realized how important English is not only for academic purpose, but also for communication is globalist world. So I start dedicating time every day to practice, study, and become more familiar with the language.
Well, in my case, I remember that in the high school I started to learn English, but it no was a good experience because the teacher always speaking Spanish. Each year was the same topic, the verb to be and do or does. No more. And I think that for that time I never I didn't learn anything about English, but I started to learn in English seriously in 2020. In 2020, yes, at a language institute. I decided to learn this language because for me it was really interesting and it is important in a globalized world. At first, it was a little bit challenging because, for example, everything was new for me, but little by little, I began to understand and enjoy the process. And since then, English has become an important part of my life, not only for the university, also for work or for whatever thing that I do, and I've been trying to improve my skills every day.
Okay, it's always interesting to hear how our English journeys begin. Thanks. So let's move on to the next question. What were the main challenges you faced while learning English and how did you overcome them? Please, Wendy.
Okay, and in my case, one of the main challenges was improving my vocabulary and understanding grammar rules. I also struggle with listening and speaking at first, especially in class or when speaking with higher level classmates. I overcame these challenges by practicing regularly using English in real life and situations and not being afraid of making mistakes.
Yes, in my case, well, one of the main challenges I face was not understanding a lot of at the beginning. I only knew some basic vocabulary from my high school. Also, but creating simple sentences or trying, for example, to express my ideas was very difficult for me. It was also frustrating to see how people found it easier to learn English, and while I can't. Uh, it just to understand basic conversation or simple text was really hard for me also. Sometimes I felt discouraged and told I wasn't making any process, but I didn't give up, obviously, and I keep practicing watching movies, listen to music in English, and trying to speak with myself because I don't have anything with or someone who helped me to practice my speaking in English. Sorry, and even for that time was hard, but now I don't care if I have mistakes, if I make mistakes, because it's important to know that mistakes help us to improve our skills. And I understand that little by little I start we can improve and gain more confidence with the English skills.
Well, for me, one of the biggest challenges I faced was speaking fluently and confidently. I often hesitate to talk because I was afraid of making mistakes. Another challenge was understanding the listening when I listen to my classmates or when I watching movies because the English vocabulary is very wide and memorizing every word is very difficult for me.
In my case, listening comprehension was quite changing at the beginning because native speakers often talk very fast and use slang or idiomatic expressions. I found it difficult to catch every word and understand the context. To improve, I started listening to podcasts and watching TV shows with subtitles in English. Um, I train in my ear and recognize different accents and speeds. I also posted and rewound videos when I didn't understand something, which helped me learn new vocabulary and expressions.
Okay, in my case, uh, one of the most difficult challenges I faced in the beginning was understanding speaking English, especially when native speakers talk it fast or use unfamiliar expression or often felt frustrated because I couldn't form aloud and this affects my confidence. Another big obstacle was speaking fluently. I used to get nervous and hesitate a lot, afraid of making mistakes or baked misunderstood. To overcome this challenge and development patience and persistence, I remind myself that learning language is the process that takes time, and that making mistakes in part of learning. I started watching English series with subtitles to train my listening skills, and I practice speaking aloud even when I was alone, little by little. I am become more comfortable with the language. I also sought feedback from teacher and classmate, which help me correct my errors and improve continuously.
Okay, thanks. However, our learning process allows us to overcome this challenge. Okay, third question. Now let's talk about what really works for us. So, what strategies have been most effective in helping you improve your English skills? Please, Helen.
Okay. Throughout this learning process, I discovered a variety of strategies that truly made a difference. One of the most helpful was creating an immersive environment by surrounding myself with English every day. I watched movies, listen to podcasts on different topics, read articles, and even set my phone and computer to English. Another powerful technique was recording myself with speaking. This allowed me to hear how sounding, not this pronunciation used, and work on my fluency. I also use flashcards and apps like Duolingo to read for vocabulary. And joining conversation groups and participating with friends have me to opportunity to use English in real conversation, which help me build confidence and spontaneity. Additionally, reading short text journals and reflection help me sort my ideas and improve grammar in a practical way.
Um, Setting a small, achievable goals has helped me stay motivated. For example, I aim to learn 5 new words every day or write a journal and try in English each night. These small steps add up and keep me consistent. I also use language learning apps that gamify the process, making it a fun and rewarding. Another strategy is a practice of four skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking regularly. And I saw improve in balanced way.
Well, in my case, some of the most effective strategies that helped me to improve my English were, for example, practicing every day and using the language in real situations. I start, for example, reviewing basic grammar and vocabulary, and I practice forming simple sentences because yes, in the institute they give you grammar structures, but if you don't practice, obviously you forget what you learn. I also listen the English audio materials like podcasts. I like or I love English music in English, sorry, and slow conversations. This kind of materials help me to improve my listening skills and pronunciation. Also, the other strategy was watching movies or series in English, avoiding using subtitles. But for nowadays, obviously, sometimes I use subtitles because there are a lot of new vocabulary. But while I don't need it, I try to um, put enough and don't use it. It really helped me to get used to natural rhythm of language. And another strategy that was really helpful for me is work or speaking as much as possible. Even if I made mistakes, I try to participate more in English classes and practice with, for example, classmates or by myself by recording my voice, because it was another good advice that in the easy to give me. Try to record your voice and listen how is your pronunciation. I love read, so I decided to change the books in Spanish, sorry, for books in English. Yes, that are all my techniques for practice English and improve my skills.
Okay, so for me, several strategies were especially effective for learning. For example, reading English books, especially novels, short stories, but I loved the comics. So this expanded my vocabulary and helped me to understand sentence structure. I also practice speaking with friends or language exchange partners online, which help me build confidence. However, listening to music and watching movies in English were the most effective tools for improving my skills.
Okay, and for me, the strategies of watching subtitle videos and series and listen to music, for example, and reading short articles and using mobile apps were very helpful. And also reading short text, practicing with my friends, and asking for feedback were especially useful. Actively participating in class and speaking up even when I wasn't sure helped me again confidence.
Okay, sorry and sorry. Um, well, now for something a little more personal, um, please can you continue with the next present, the next imagine? Yes. So now for something a little more personal, can you share a memorable experience you've had while learning English?
Yes, in my case, I have several memorable experience while learning English. One of the first was when I was finally be able to give a presentation about myself in English. It was a big step for me because I used to be very nervous and shy when I had to speak in front others, especially in another language. No. Another special moment was the first time I understood an entire movie in English without subtitles. Of course, I didn't know every single word, as I told you before. It was important the subtitles, but when I understand them, this movie was, oh my god, was amazing for me. And I was feel really proof about my process. Also, being able to participate actively in classes has been a great achievement for me, obviously, because I can express my ideas. It used to be a challenge, but now I feel more confident and comfortable sharing my ideas, speak or use new vocabulary. And one of the most unforgettable experience was during a trip with my family. I remember that I helped an American tourist by giving directions to the place she was looking for, and she understood me. I mean, so for me, it was really amazing. And at that moment, I made me realize that all the effort and time I dedicate to learning English was truly worth it. However, obviously, I'm still conscious that I have to keep learning and improving every skill every day, and don't feel afraid of make mistakes.
Okay, and a memorable experience was when I understood an entire class in English without translations. Another special moment was when I helped a classmate with an English assessment. These situations made realize how much my English has improved.
Okay. One experience I will never forget happened during a virtual group activity in class. We were asked to discuss a topic in English, and first I was very nervous, but as the conversation forward, I realized that I was actually able to understand and contribute without switching to Spanish. Um, I managed to express my thoughts clearly and even made jokes that my classmate understood. That moment gave me an hard sense of achievement and motivate me to keep going. Another memorable experience was when I helped tourists how visit my town. She was lost and didn't speak Spanish, so I used my English skills to give her direction and talk with her. And she was very grateful, and I feel proud that I was able to help someone using two languages I had working so hard to learn.
Okay. One of the memorable experience I've had while learning English participation in an online English competition. The competition required me to write several essays on different topics and answer a variety of the questions that test my grammar, vocabulary, and comprehension skills. At first, I felt very nervous because I knew the level of the competition would be high, and I wasn't sure if my English was good enough. However, I was also excited because it was great opportunity for me to change myself and see how much I had improved. I spent many hours preparing for the competition, research topics, practice my writing, and reviewing grammarly rules. During the contest, I have to focus carefully and to express my ideas clearly and correctly within the time limit. It was not easy, but I enjoyed the process because I experience is very significant for me to think I critical and I use English in a more advanced way.
Well, I always remember this moment because it was like, oh my god. So one of the most memorable experience I had during my learning process was the day I was able to watch an entire movie in English without having to pause to look at the meaning of each word that appear in the subtitles. So that day I realized that my skills had undoubtedly improved. It was a great achievement for my learning process. So we continue with the five question. So how would you describe your current level of English and what are your future goals in terms of language proficiency? Please, Isabella.
I consider myself at an immediately level. I can communicate well in every situation, but I still want to improve it, my fluency and accuracy. My future goal is to reach an advanced level and so I can study abroad and communicate confidently with people from different cultures. And I also want to prepare for official exams like IELTS or 12 to open more academic and professional opportunities.
Okay, I will describe my English level as intermediate between B1 and B2. I can understand mass conversation and text on topic I am familiar with, and I can express my ideas fairly clearly, although I still make mistakes, especially grammatical ones. I feel more confident when speaking and listening, and I have improved my pronunciations and vocabulary over time. My goal is to reach an advanced level C1 where I can communicate fluently and according in different situations. I want to improve my writing, understanding more complex texts, and speak more naturally in the future. I hope to use English in my teaching career and travel to other countries and possibly study abroad. Note this will require effort, but I am motivated to continue learning.
Well, currently I will describe my English level as upper intermediate, maybe in B2. Yes. Because I can comfortably have conversations, write essays, and understand most media content. Well, in the future, I hope to reach an advanced level, speak with native like fluency, and possibly use my English in a professional setting such as studying or working abroad. That's my goal.
Well, in my case, right now, I consider that my English level is upper intermediate, maybe B2, because like all of you guys, I can understand most of the conversations. I can read complex text, and also I can express my ideas even though I still make some mistakes. I've improved a lot of compared to when I start, especially in listening and speaking. My goal is to get a high level of English. I hope C1 or C2. I want to be able to speak also fluently and confidently in different situations, write texts with a better grammar, and I usually understand to the different native and different dialects in English. I would like to use English also as my classmate said before, and as a professional and academic purposes, such as working, maybe in international companies, or speak with international people, traveling around the world, or even studying abroad. I know that it will take time to and effort, but I'm motivated to keep learning and practicing every day. And one maybe a funny thing that English taught me is that I would like to learn another language, a lot of language, but English opened my mind that the importance to learn language all the time, not only for a situation, as I told you before, academic, or just for get a good notes or scores. It's more for life, for personal growth, because it's important. It's important in for nowadays English open a lot of doors.
Okay. At this point in my journey, I consider that I have reached B2 level is English. This means I can understand more complex text and audio materials, take part in conversation on a variety of topics, and express my ideas clearly and with more confidence. Even though I feel more comfortable now. I know that I still have a lot to learn. My future goal is to reach C1 level, which will allow me to use English as a more advanced and professional level. I want to be able to teach English effectively, interact fluently with native speakers, and feel confident giving presentation or participating in academic discussions. I, um, I also dream of traveling to English speaking countries and being able to communicate easily and naturally. English is not just a subject for me, it is valuable to that will open many doors in my life, but personally and professionally. What sorry, that's why I am communicate is continuing this journey with dedication and enthusiasm.
Okay, all of us have great goals, and I'm sure we'll achieve them. So that brings us to the end of our knowledge podcast. Thank you so much for joining us and listen to our English learning process. We hope you found it helpful and inspiring. Keep practicing and stay motivated and never stop learning. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
You.